Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. Well, except for the fact that, as you can see by the fact that I'm zipped up, it's not actually very warm right now. But, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. I'm walking and it's Wednesday. That's some of the requirements there. So, yeah, essentially, I'm going analog right now because I was told to immediately get out because it seems like it's getting darker or it's about to rain or something. So, yeah, I was pretty much shooed out to get this done and over with before I end up drenching myself because I forgot my coat. So yeah, not really a surprise if you know me well enough. I tend to do that quite a lot. Anyways, before I get too much into a preamble of any sort, I just want to give a bit of an update. So the whole Maddie's gotcha thing from last week, that's all pretty much resolved right now. It's just some time. It seems like that video in particular, the Walking Wednesday from last week, is the one that drew Maddie's attention to the whole ordeal, as it seems. Just because I know that there was like the whole moment when I actually, the actual stream itself, which Maddie was present for the beginning of, but it seems that unlike what I thought might have happened at that point, she didn't actually return to the stream afterwards to witness the rest of it. So who knows, I should probably ask at some point if I was due with a criticism or just because she forgot, or I don't know exactly what happened. We shall see, because if I loop around and actually do end up reviewing anything by her again in the future, then I gotta know, just in case. But yeah, either way, she found out in the actual comments and started posting a lot of different places, several videos about her actual thoughts, made several videos about it. There was the whole massive escalated ordeal. The drama got worse after that Walking Wednesday came out. But after some time, apparently, I say apparently, this is what happened. After some time, we did actually eventually make peace. It seemed that at some point, Maddie's nicer side was triggered, and the side that really wants to make friends and not distance from people and everything, is eventually it clicked that, oh, that's what's going on. So yeah, that's and then after that, actually she did end up mentioning that she was going to be more open to have her LGBT friend in reality, and then also just in general. Because yeah, why not? If you're out there to make as many friends as you can, definitely don't alienate the ones that are honestly a really accepting community of people. That's the thing. A lot of people have mentioned how I'm essentially the token straight friend of my friendship group, and probably the reason for that is because they're all just such amazing people. So yeah, why not? That's one token that I shall gladly fill, until of course other people come along. There are other straight people that we know. It's just depending on what circle we're talking about. Yeah, that's an exaggeration. Don't take my word for that one. But yeah, essentially after that, Maddie and I have actually made peace. Obviously, anyone else who has been in the situation, I'm not saying necessarily, say one way or the other, but as far as I'm concerned, that whole matter is closed. The one thing that does really surprise me is the fact that it seems that apparently, the parent, that when Maddie mentioned that she was adopted in one of the comments, which wasn't entirely relevant, but whatever. I mentioned, well, that's not really much of anything. They're saying much of anything because I am too. I don't know if that was what swayed her or not. I don't know if it was that connection that we seem to have. I have no idea. So that was the only part that's it's still a bit of a head scratcher for me. But yeah, everything else done and dusted. So yeah, I think I've seen her a couple of those Wipeout Arena fan streams, which I still don't mess too much in, because obviously I don't know the series well enough. But I have been thinking about the format of those streams, and about how that can actually apply to a different project I have sometime in the future. Just as inspired by a different type of reviews. Well, not that type of reviews, different set of reviews. Oh well, doesn't matter. I'm here to talk about the thing that says in the title, which is not to do with gacha, but it's to do with Minecraft this time. And it's, yeah. I was actually going to open up this stream. I had the idea to open up this stream with like a song. Where I was like, I'm mad at B, please free me from this data storage issue, please. I took her advice and did not think twice, and my computer's ridden. Oh no, what was it? Oh yeah, and now I cannot record with ease. That was the thing I was going to say. You know, classic me, that was going to be my cold opening, and then I realised I need that update first. Anyway, I'm not actually mad at BB. That was just me joking around. However, I do have something to say about BB and her method that she's adopted from Polar to do with Minecraft roleplays. It's not necessarily that I say that, oh, the system is flawed or anything, or, you know, it can't be done or whatever. It just seems to come with a few negative repercussions that have definitely impacted the series, and maybe some positives too. So I'm just going to give, you know, a bit of an insight into the behind the scenes of the new Minecraft series Drama Club. So if anyone hasn't seen the first episode of Drama Club, it's all about these two guys called Chris and Lester, who, well, they restarted a drama club that used to run their school, but, you know, they wanted to reinstate it. One of them likes writing, one of them likes directing. And, you know, they gather, you know, a motley crew in order to put on some good old-fashioned theatre. So, yeah, pretty simple concept. But yeah, the actual first episode, we structured because we had different perspectives. Both Ed and I are doing perspectives where we have what will sometimes like split off into different scenes. So that way people actually have more of a reason to watch one of our perspectives versus the other, because, you know, if we're both in the same scenes like all the time, then there's no point both of us recording a perspective, because, you know, why bother at that point? So yeah, if people are wondering, there are differences between Lester's and Chris's perspectives as far as what scenes are actually there. And now I've also found out that there's another person who's going to be recording their own perspective, but I don't think it's going to have as much of a focus on, oh, this is, you know, we're going to split you up again and also find you a different spot. I don't know how that's going to go, really, because we weren't really expecting a third recording person at this point. But either way, what happens, we structured it out in scenes for the first episode. You know, like a typical film shoot. You have certain scenes and you set those up and you film them, not necessarily in order, but the general idea. And the difference is we didn't script it because, you know, we're trying to do improv and trying not to overthink it too much. We did draft out like some paragraphs of like outlines of what we were planning to do. That much is, you know, of course we did that, because otherwise it would just be utter chaos at that point. Excuse me for a second, I have a rock in my shoe. And yeah, that seemed to work out all right for the people involved. You know, we got to pause and set up stuff behind the scenes and everything, and because you know, Aid and I had the direction, and were the directors of that, mainly Aiden, we were able to keep the vision in track. So we knew what order everything was supposed to go in, or what we needed at that point. And yeah, there were a couple of issues where it was like, oh, you know, Aiden called for it to be a wrap before I actually did my solo scene, which is why the first scene of that has worse audio, because I wasn't able to set up a different place to Craig. We didn't have that all, so it wasn't without its faults. But overall, it seems like everyone was somewhat okay with how it turned out. That is, except for BB. And maybe Shorty, I'm not sure, haven't asked her yet. But BB in particular, yeah, that's when it all, that's who's been mentioning the faults. And I do wonder about that, because the faults that BB mentions was the fact that apparently all of Polar's stuff is recorded in one consistent go, with some editing in between, maybe, and little else that and little preparation, so like one paragraph. Now granted, Polar, I will say, you know, he only has one perspective to worry about. So, you know, his own. So it's much easier to be like, oh, you know, we could do one scene only, and then that's it. For us, it's kind of more like at least 3, because we're trying to make sure, you know, that we have. So I'm just going to go a little bit further down here. Okay. Yeah, we're trying to make sure that we have that we have, like, obviously different options and different viewing experiences for people. And in fact, we accidentally stumbled on a way to tie our scenes together quite nicely in episode 2. But yeah, so apparently that was it was much better, probably from an actor perspective, to do it that way and just be like, oh, you know, we'll record one thing through the whole way, and then we'll stop. Which there's several problems with that, but the pros of it would be, yeah, the actors just get one thing to worry about. They can play out one particular thing and move on in natural real time. I suppose if you're into real time, that's good. If you don't want to see someone walk to the next part of the set, I imagine that'd be quite cumbersome. But that's not really happened in the first episode. The second episode hasn't come out yet, but I will just talk about the format of it. I'm not going to say exactly what happens in it, because obviously, you know, I want you to watch it when it comes out. But we tried, because BB mentioned the issues, Aiden and I decided, okay, fine, you know, so BB and Shorty, who have worked with Ice Cube Studios, so Polar's studio, for a significant time, or had done so in the past. They both left now, I believe, unless Shorty's still there, but I don't know, I don't think so. And, oh sorry, I just was noticing everything that's going on here. Yeah, but so we said, okay, we're gonna let them do their thing, and then we're gonna format, you know, we're gonna try out their method. So BB and Shorty were in charge of that particular script, and yeah, there was some. We did tell them there's going to be some level where you have to actually outline and deviate for Chris and Lester at least once, and that does happen. So ultimately, that much was, you know, a good old-fashioned artistic compromise. But yeah, after that, during the actual execution, there were a few problems. So BB told me that the best method was to just keep recording, no matter what. So any bloopers, anything of that, just one video file, and Don't do anything else. So that resulted in me having an hour and 10 minutes, or maybe a little bit less, depending on differences, of actual video content, where I was just told, okay, all right, keep the cameras rolling, we'll sort all of this out. Now, what happened as a result of that was that my entire computer storage was drained. In fact, that's part of an issue that's going to happen in the actual video. And not only that, but also because of the way that I had the Craig downloads take up a lot of space. Craig, by the way, is a Discord bot that records audio, so that's an issue there. But because of that, the Craig bots, I only had one go at them because I couldn't save any edits that I made to people. Because what I do is I take out when people might interrupt somebody, or someone says a line that needs to be said a bit louder, or when someone's family talks in the background, they forget to mute themselves, all those kind of things. Because apparently, also because the way I record, apparently for some reason my regular recorder does not pick up on the rest of people, so you can just hear me. So it's a pretty essential detail for me in terms of my recording process. Now, of course, the problem with that is not only that I had to do several files because I had to leave and join a different place in the middle of the session so we could actually do the separate scene, all, of course, while actually, managing, what was it? Or, of course, while trying to do one recording session and not leave. So we didn't have a natural transition point or anything. So again, points against trying to do it all at once. But also, because I couldn't save the files, I only had one go at them. So unfortunately, Ghosty's audio, at the moment, has been lost. So I'm trying to wait for Aid to send me the audio that he has, as well as a panning shot that he promised me, to actually even upload the episode. I need to rely on other people for the stuff because I can't go back and re-look at the rest of it because I did not have the space to even do anything. And I've been trying to use external drives and everything, but my computer needs enough storage space to send files over. So that's a whole mess as well. I never encountered that problem where you need an amount of storage in your actual drive in order to send other files over to free up your own storage. That seems a little bit backwards to me. Then again, I'm not a computer scientist, so maybe I just haven't registered that before. I really don't know. It is utterly bizarre. So yeah, that was the issue for me. So yeah, recording in one go does not help. If anything, I don't really understand why it is that several different scenes have to be done in that precise way. I think BB just is worried about the impetus in the moment and having to go in and out of character, which, might I add, that's a basic component of improvisation. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to be, that's part of the training for it. So it kind of seems a little bit like a cop-out to me, if for as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if you're not, maybe if it gets better as people get used to their characters, because everyone was because there are a bunch of new people in this one episode, no one quite knew where they were going to go just yet. And also the setup didn't really support them, because apparently over on Aiden's perspective, they didn't know what to do for a while I actually had a fetch quest on my side. They were just waiting for us to return almost in real time again, because we had to stop and start again a new video because we had to leave the call and go to somewhere else and prepare for it. But no, we we actually, the only solution I can see to that one actually is if somebody else moves us into different recording sessions while we're going, so we don't have to worry about it ourselves. That's one method around it, but I don't know. That's the only thing I can really think of, honestly. Again, it's not very good the way that it was done. And yeah, so they were just waiting in real time for us to finish while cleaning up a room, basically. And that's it. They didn't know what to do. So they were there, being their quirky, over-the-top selves, and that's all they were in charge of. So yeah, not exactly points for staying in character. I was told that Aiden reportedly ended his session because of those things, but also because on his end, the impact of this format is more emotional. So he wanted something that was a lot more structured, so it wasn't just, a series of craziness. Bear in mind that BB has seen a bunch of role plays by Sam Gladiator and of course Polar Bear, obviously, where that format is the standard. But Aiden and I have not. If anything, the different types of role plays that we've actually grown up with have informed a lot of our content. Like Sir Nicanor and Forgers Pascal and stuff like that was based on because I started out with Minecraft role plays done by Paul Sawyers Jr. before I eventually moved on to Athmal. I don't know whether Athmal was the first Minecraft roleplay YouTuber that Aiden saw particularly, but his style, which went into much more the cinematics, which is what he prefers, does support that. And if anything, he was actually, the only person that I've met before myself that really actually used scripts for any of their work. Shout out to all the budding gotcha tubers out there. So with him, it was a shock to do this, and the fact that it seemed to be out of his control, as the director and of course the person who had the idea for this series, it makes perfect sense that he'd be uncomfortable with it. I think I'm going to end up with a different video file after this. It's going to start training soon, so be prepared for that. And yeah, it's so I completely understand where he's coming from too. There we go. See, I knew it was going to drain out somewhere. So on one end you have a technical issue for me, and on the other hand you have an emotional issue for him. So the two people who have perspective so far have an issue with this format, and yet apparently, according to BB, it is the standard. Well, I can say for certain that it is not the entire standard, because while BB, I guess, got a taste of that, particularly during the days of working on Yandere seasons 1 and 2 over on Polar's channel, I had a different Yandere series that I was also working on. Not myself. I mean, I was an actor in it, and that was for Lady Mania. And if you notice from Lady Mania's Yandere series, which also was inspired by a particular YouTuber, it seems like It's Funny had a version of her own. In that version, they actually had the sets done beforehand, a monumental preparation phase time, and also we cut the cameras in order to get to the different places. Sometimes there'd be a couple of times where we're like, oh, we could just cut this part out of us, like, moving to a different area because, it's, this is pretty tedious. Especially with my character, because I had never used the motorbikes in Minecraft before, did not know how to drive them, and did not prepare for one, so he had to hitch a ride every time. That was one issue that happened. But yeah, it was not a perfect system, but quite honestly, I prefer it immensely to having to once I'm in to the other method, once I'm in the driver's seat. Maybe as an actor in the improv format, it works way better. But if you're doing two perspectives, you don't have enough stories to support continuing to record, and quite frankly, the actors sometimes didn't quite know what they were doing because, we had issues with like the skins and you know, it was their first session with us, so it was all going to be pretty much like up in the air. I don't blame them for that at all. But because of all those things, once you're in the driver's seat, it gets significantly worse to try and do that. And that's the part that I think that BB particularly is missing on. Because yeah, in an ideal situation, I guess, you know, in traditional improv, you get up on stage and you just carry on in character, you know, throughout however long the scene actually lasts. As my understanding, of course, having done improv for several years now, almost a decade, that the scenes themselves don't normally last too long because that's also a pacing issue. But I've talked to you about pacing issues in the past, and I fall on deaf ears. So, you know, that does depend as well. But yeah, the scenes themselves don't last too long because, you know, the audience will get bored, or, you know, the jokes themselves will run their course. The actors will get tired. You know, even in this situation, the director and one of the main characters got so bored he had to end his recording session for his own mental health. That to me tells me that the system we're using right now has problems, and we should not be, you know, using that because it is the standard, especially because it isn't. There are other people who have gone way further in a different direction that have executed this in they're the same ideas that BB was involved in back in the day in a far more effective manner. And like I said before, Lady Mania's method is not perfect. I myself suffered a lot because of that, because I was kept up significantly into like the morning. The sun would be out and we still would never have started recording because we were waiting for one person to show up. That's the one advantage I think about Polar's method, because as long as the perspective characters are there, you're able to record. And I did admit my guilt in the previous video about the fact that I messed up the times of which I was supposed to show up and ruined the recording session from the week before. But that's the reason I actually offered to, you know, when Aiden said, oh, let's record at 7 p.m. his time, which happened to be midnight for me, I said, okay, I will do that this once because I messed up before, so I can sacrifice my own convenience because I did that for everyone else last week. But other than that, normally whenever I'm kept up just waiting for something to start, or to you know, or more importantly to finish, you know, it gets way worse. But I will say from the video perspective and from May's perspective, the method was effective. And clearly that meticulous amount of detail, honestly, Aiden would fit right in with that. Unfortunately, she's become more strict with like her mic layout and stuff, and Aiden hasn't got the same in that I did back in the day. Which, you know, I do lament that it is indeed raining now, so man was right about that. So I'm going to wrap this up soon. But, yeah. So yeah, unfortunately that opening hasn't actually happened. But then again, we can create that for ourselves. We can spend time, like we did before like in session 0, just setting things up. You know, we had a moment where we went through like the school and we got to see like the signs that I put up as the teachers for like across like every single room. Not every single room because we're only on one floor, but whatever. That was a detail that we put in there during session 0 that you know would have been missing if we just, you know, went gung-ho about it. Yeah, so I don't think that we need to have more of a discussion, you know, Aiden, BB, perhaps Shorty and myself, about why exactly this has failed for both of us. And why, and I will say I had fun during that other session. I also had fun during the first one. If I had to choose, I'd choose the one that's given people the least amount of problems, which just so happens to be the one from the first one, or find a way in between. BB says there's no middle ground between them. I think that there could be. You know, we give less of a description of the scenes, but we also, or we give like a whole like outline, but we're also allowed to cut in between, think about stuff, talk to people about what's working in the session and what isn't, you know, because Aiden had to suffer in silence until he turned off the camera. You know, we get to discuss all those things in between the scenes. That really helped with, like, you know, Ghosty, Josiah and myself, who get a scene alone. We seem to gel really well because we were actually able to be both in and out of character, showing what works. And quite frankly, you know, if your only method of if you take a while to get into a character for improv, either choose a different character or just practice as the character so you get more used to it. That's the thing I'm doing with voice acting as well. If you do a voice for long enough, you can just switch into it like right away. I mean, cold waves take me a while, but for now it's just like it's automatic. It's like muscle memory, like that, for example. You know, that's where all those the rapid shifts that come from. You know, that's the classic J.G. Quintel thing that Monet showed me a while ago. Those come in from practice. So yeah, that is important. So we're gonna have a talk, and we're gonna make sure that the next recording session, which will be on Sunday, regardless if the episode 2 comes out or not, we're gonna make sure that A, my storage is gonna be safe, and B, that everyone is able to have a good time. That is our mission statement. But for now, hopefully episode 2 will come out soon, depends, because Aiden has not brought himself to edit the video for the reasons I mentioned before. So we'll have to see. But yeah, enjoy episode 2 if it comes out in the meantime. If not, it will just be off my computer and, you know, on private for a while until Aiden's ready. I don't mind that, I just want it off my computer so I can actually record other stuff in the meantime. It's been an interesting week having not been able to record anything fresh when I've had ideas. So yeah, we'll see about that. Whatever the plan is, please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters. And subscribe to this already. And also leave a comment about, like, you know, what your preferred method is, or whose method of roleplays do you actually prefer, you know? You can even throw in AFMAL there. We're not going to go full cinematic, but maybe like classic AFMAL in terms of how the NPCs were formatted, like how her scenes were done. I think AFMAL found the middle ground. Replace the NPCs with actual people, I think we've got something there, personally. But yeah, what do you think? Let me know. Subscribe to us already, obviously. And on that note, until next time, farewell.